Okay, Chapter 10. Fare thee wells. Well, that was simple and direct, said Annie. Yeah, Jack felt dazed. Augusta looked at Jack and Annie. I saw them, she said, her eyes wide. I finally saw the she. I really saw them. She burst out laughing. Her laughter was so full of joy that Jack and Annie started laughing too. I saw them, Augusta kept repeating. I saw the she. And now I have important things to do. Yes, you do, said Annie. I must learn the old language, and I must start gathering stories at once. That's what the Queen Anne told me, said Augusta. I can't wait to visit the old storytellers. There's Mary Sheridan and Biddy Early, too. I'll start with Mary. Let's go see her right now. Hurry. Will you come with me? Hurry. Sure, said Annie, but just a second. She turned to Jack. What about Willie? Who's Willie? asked Augusta. A friend of ours, said Jack, looking around. He said he'd wait for us, but where was he going to wait? Willie, called Annie. I guess he's still somewhere on the other side of the river, said Jack. That's too bad, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. Come on, let's go see Mary now, said Augusta, grabbing Annie's hand and pulling her along. Jack looked around for Annie one last time. He was sad about not seeing the leprechaun again, but he was a little relieved, too. He knew they couldn't keep their part of the deal, teaching Willie how to play the magic whistle. Come on, Jack, cried Augusta. Jack followed the two girls through the wet meadow, over the stone wall, down the dirt lane, and across the muddy field to Mary Sheridan's cottage. Mary, Mary, Augusta called. She dashed ahead of Jack and Annie. She didn't even stop to knock. She threw open the door to the cottage. Oh, she said, freezing in her tracks. Jack and Annie caught up with Augusta and looked inside. Mary was sitting in front of the fire. Next to her was a small man wearing a green jacket and a three-cornered red cap with a white feather. Willie, cried Annie. Annie and Jack hurried past Augusta into the cottage. You're here, said Jack. Of course, I said I'd wait for you, said the leprechaun. I see you found your dear friend and brought her home. Good work. Augusta stood in the doorway, gaping at Willie. Who are you, she asked. Name's Willie, just plain Willie, said the leprechaun. I usually leave before you visit Mary, but now you've seen the she, so I suppose there's no point in hiding from you anymore. Are you real? Asked Augusta. Who knows, said the leprechaun. Maybe I'm real, maybe you're not. Depends on which one is asking the question. Everyone laughed. Good point, said Annie. Well, we'd better get home, said Jack. He wanted to leave before Willie asked Annie for the whistle lesson. Jack took Annie's hand and started backing toward the door. Thanks for helping us, Willie, he said. Yeah, and thanks, Mary, for everything, said Annie, waving. Goodbye, Augusta. Goodbye, everyone. Just wait a minute, my friend, said Willie. Oh, thought Jack. Have you forgotten our deal? Said Willie. My fingers were itching to make beautiful music for Mary. Well, you see, there's a problem with that, said Jack, squirming. A frown crossed Willie's face. A problem, he said. How could there be a problem? Find your friend. Teach Willie to play the whistle. Doesn't get simpler than that. Right, said Jack. So what's the problem? Asked Willie. Well, the whistle. Jack didn't know how to finish. I'll answer that question, said Annie. Willie, I'm going to be simple and direct and honest with you. Yes, said the leprechaun. Merlin the magician gave us the whistle to help us on our missions, said Annie. The whistle is magic. The only magic works once. Without the magic, I don't really know how to play, so I can't teach you. There, you have it. Ah, said Willie. He looked at the floor and shook his head. Then I'm afraid I'm going to have to turn you both into chipmunks. What? Said Jack. Willie burst out laughing. Joking, I'm only joking, he said. Merlin, you should have told me your friends were Merlin in the first place. Do you know Merlin? Asked Jack. Oh, yes. We spent a great deal of time together. Must have been about 800 years ago now, said Willie. How is he? He's happy, said Annie. Good. Willie turned back to Mary and Augusta. I first met the master magician on the Isles of Merlin in the Irish Sea. Wait, please. Willie, said Augusta. Mary, do you have a pen and paper? No, my dear, I'm afraid I don't, said Mary. I can help, said Jack. He took his pencil and small notebook out of his pocket. He tore some clean pages out of his notebook. Then he gave the pencil and pages to Augusta. There, he said. Oh, thank you, Jack, said Augusta. She turned back to Willie. Continue, please. Well, said Willie, Merlin was only a few centuries old then, and I was a mere lad. As Willie told his story, Augusta began to write. Jack put his notebook back into his pocket and nodded to Annie. She nodded back. The two of them started toward the door. Just as they were about to leave, Annie called out to the others, Bye! We have to go home now, said Jack. Trip lightly, said Willie. Thank you for everything, said Augusta. 1 and 20 fair, 3 wells, said Mary. Same to you guys, said Jack, and then he and Annie slipped out of the cottage. The rain was pouring again, and the wind was blowing hard. I think we inspired Augusta, said Annie. Yep, we accomplished our mission, said Jack. Now, let's get out of here. He couldn't wait to go home and get dry and warm. Annie and Jack ran against the wind. They climbed over the stone wall and then hurried down the lane, slipping and sliding in the muck. They ran across the soaked field. By the time they arrived at the rope ladder, their clothes were caked with mud. Jack and Annie climbed into the treehouse. Annie found the Pennsylvania book in the corner. As the rain blew through the window, she pointed to the picture of the Frog Creek woods. I wish we could go there, she said. The wind blew harder. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still.